back to the Reef There podcast. My name is Pagan, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Dan. Hello, Dan.
What's up, visual listeners?
What's up, visual listeners? We got
and
something
Halo friends.
Yeah, and Halo friends. Halo friends. I hope you're all fucking listening to this, Halo friends.
We are going to be talking about Halo once again.
We are. We've got a very special episode today. We're going to be talking to Giovanni Lipari, Lipari?
Sorry, Giovanni.
Giovanni Lipari. Sorry, Giovanni. We got a very special episode for you today. We're going to be joining, when Giovanni Lipari is going to be joining us, who is the costume designer for Halo, which is so special. Thank you so much to Alessio and to Drew for putting us all together for the Repair podcast. And I don't know, I'm very excited. What do you think, Dan? I think you're a bigger fan of Halo than I am.
Oh, massive fan. And when we got the news that we would be able to get a chance to have a chat with the costume designer from the show, I was actually amazingly excited because I am a fan of the new show. I think it looks incredible. I love the costume design, the Spartans, the Marines, everyone looks on point. So yeah, I'm extremely pumped to be able to have a conversation with the man behind all of that goodness.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then when we got the email, we were doing a lot of research and like opening up IMDb, and Dan was like, hey, he's done Penny Dreadful and Into the Badlands. I was like, I'm in those. Wait.
I'm like, I know.
Let me check. And totally right. And I do remember meeting Giovanni before. I don't know if he's ever going to listen to this, but it was a very funny scenario. And the reason I remember this is because I was being fitted for a very beautifully made, like handmade Italian designed costume, which he was a costume assistant on Penny Dreadful. And we were in the costume fitting warehouse, and there was a little doggy in the top end of the warehouse, which is like a little Dutch Hund or a little like sausage dog, which belonged to the costume designer or the costume director or costume designer. And it was the first time I've ever heard a dog spoken to in another language. That's why it stuck with me, is because we were talking and the dog was going, yep, 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 yep. And Giovanni just turned around and went, Silenzio. And I was like, oh, Italian speaking doggy, how cute. So the dog shut up and we got on with our costume.
It's funny because I grew up with my mom talking to our dogs, which when I was a kid, we had German Shepherds, and my mom is German and she would talk to the dogs in German.
Oh, amazing. See, I've never had anything like that. All of the like animals that I've encountered have always obviously been in like English speaking countries. So it was just a cool like experience, and it wasn't in Italy. We were in Ireland. It was really, really cool. So I'm excited to get to chat with Giovanni and sort of get into the costume making behind Halo. I know that, like, obviously from being Into the Badlands and on Penny Dreadful, that the costumes are so exquisitely made. And Into the Badlands, of course, was Giovanni's first costume design role, or costume designer job, head designer, lead designer. How do we say that?
What are they called?
Hold on, let me check.
He makes costumes, or he helps make costumes in some form or fashion.
Let me put this in so that I don't mess this up. Excuse me. So of course, Into the Badlands was Giovanni's first role or first job as the costume designer on the whole of the Into the Badlands series, and then of course now he's in Halo and doing costume design on that as well, which is very, very cool. So yeah, they're really well made, and I'm very excited to talk to him and get a peek behind the curtain, like you said, Dan. Let's get a peek behind the curtain of Halo.
Let's go talk to Giovanni.
Roll the tape. Roll the tape. Welcome, Giovanni, to the Replayer podcast. My name is Pagan, and that is Dan. We are co-hosts here. We do a podcast for Couch Soup, which centers around gaming and pop culture. And we're very grateful that you've come on to our show today to talk about Halo, the brand new series that's just launched.
Thank you and welcome.
The lead costume designer, I believe, right? The costume director?
Costume designer. Well, yeah.
Designer? Well, yeah. Okay, cool. I have, to start off with, Giovanni, some very interesting /trivia /not trivia facts.
Ooh.
We've actually met before. And I used to, well, not that I used to, but I was an actor on Penny Dreadful and on Into the Badlands.
Spicy.
And I was fitted for a beautiful, beautiful handmade costume in 2015 for Penny Dreadful.
Yes.
By yourself, which was fantastic. So that's where we met the first time. And then I was also in into the
Uh,
Badlands as well in
I
one of
meant
your beautiful designs,
I remember that.
right? So, so
Small
it was
world.
it was such a small world when we got the notification that that we'd have you on the podcast, which was fantastic. So we can dive right in. How long have you been a costume designer, Giovanni?
As a designer, it's about 6 years now. But I was assisting at the designer beforehand for a lot longer.
Mhm.
But I started with Badlands and Penny Dreadful. I was an assistant designer. So
Assistant, yes, yeah.
Mhm.
learning through designer, then I have been doing this job long time. So you get all the tricks and you try to make your own happening now. I work with the really, really amazing people that gave me a lot of background to face. If you think Badlands is a dystopian world, to then go to the Halo, and then period. So
Yeah.
there's a lot, swings before like a period to then something that it doesn't exist to then a video game sci-fi thing. It's just very,
Mhm.
very good. I could face it based on the experience I had with great designers.
Good. And do you like
Mm.
that challenge of going through things like sci-fi to dystopian, like and period pieces? Do you enjoy that challenge, or is there a specific area of costume design or an era, for example, that you love to work in?
I have to say now, yes, I do. Like it's a big change. I only thought I was going to be ready to work as in the costume period pieces. That's what I've been doing mostly.
Mhm.
And out of a fact, a friend of mine said, "Congratulations, being the first Italian designer working on the sci-fi show," which I never thought it that way. But it's not
Amazing.
really an Italian background. It's not really an Italian background thing doing the sci-fi. It's like most of those beautiful production, were like produced in the United States. So we do not have a lot of um, learning process into it.
How
Awesome.
did you find that though?
Mhm.
Did you find that challenging coming into I guess a sci-fi space without having that previous background? Was there any specific challenges that you faced creatively maybe? Was it a group thing? Did you guys have to sort of brainstorm a lot of costume ideas? Because there's really no reference in sci-fi other than obviously Halo with the game. But in McKee's character, for example, where this is the first ever Covenant
Are you
human,
jumping ahead,
I
Peggy?
am jumping ahead, but I'm just wondering, like, there's challenges, a great challenge there, but I guess also great creativity as well, where you really do have to come up with something unique that's never been done before.
Well, since Pagan's
How'd
jumping
you find that
ahead,
experience?
I want to piggyback on her real quick because I was
Okay,
telling
okay.
her as the Halo fan of the two of us, I was mentioning McKee's outfit and talking about how in the game's lore there are no humans in the Covenant. So she's
Right.
unique, and that's where I was like, I want to know how you came up with that outfit and the costume designs for McKee as a human within the Covenant. And I think that's what Pagan was getting at.
Yeah.
This is a very interesting question, I have to say, and it's a lot easier to talk about something when the questions are smart and thoughtful. I have to say, and it's more difficult the other way around. Um,
Good.
so I can go back to from the beginning to get to Mackie. Luckily, so the challenging of a sci-fi thing is what is it? It's something in the future, but what's the future? So we had a lot of images and background because obviously Halo exists. Something Halo
Okay.
exists. So it was easier to go look into the information we have. And that basically established the base of what that Halo sci-fi would be. So we have images of, the military thing and Marines and, although the Spartans, but that set how much is the future. And based on that, we could go lower in in the lo-fi and then higher in the sci-fi. So Maki was a product difficult to understand how it was trying to find into the space if that was a space what the show we made
Mhm.
in terms of like time finding her on what level she would be and how covenant and how human she would be. So we've been tracing that pretty quickly, I have to say. It hasn't been that difficult, but that was very important that the help I received and asked from the hair and makeup, which I worked with constantly with,
Mhm.
and that was very important to define how much of alien could be into the feeling of that lady. Now,
Mhm.
the costumes, for me, I look a lot in history. So as I have a history experience, as a person worked in the period, for me, there's a lot of history. So I made the future in my head looking a lot in the past, since a lot of beautiful things happened in the past. In a fashion from the 60s to the 50s and 70s, everything. So I had I considered sci-fi this way. I have the whole history to look into. Instead, if I did 1880, I had 1880 to look at. So I look back at the whole history to then find the material that would bring us into the hello world. So there's a lot of style. Then I look back, and my key, there's a bit of Egyptian style into my research. Into my really, I had an idea, and then I went research into it. She almost like framed into this I don't know how to say in English, sarcophagus is almost like this coffin there will be in.
Ah, yes, I know the
That
one
makes
that
perfect
you're
sense to me,
referencing.
actually, because a lot of people look at Egyptian culture as having a lot of almost alien influence. And
Yes,
there's so many theories out there about like Egyptians having ties to like entities in outer space, and like, then you got like Stargate, that
Mhm.
buries its lore into Egyptian culture.
correct. So that's my key. But before to going back a little bit, to how we approach to it, we received. Am I going to answer some questions by saying that, and then can bring me back whatever you like it the most. But
Sure.
for me, the most important things was to meet 343.
Mm.
Which
Yes.
had something they call it the boot camp. They brought us all there, and we had a 24 hours, of information. From we stayed there, not 24 hours, but we stayed there for for a long time, enough to go back. I felt like drunk of the amount of info I got from them, and surprisingly, they wanted us to be canon
Okay.
of the Spartans.
Mm.
And some of the military, things established in, through the video games. But they also wanted us, saying me, costume designer, production designer, the creative world, to start walking, have these as a base, but then start deepening into what we thought was going to be the direction of the show. So surprisingly, they left us very creatively free, double checking all the time, having a confrontation and discussing design. But they really wanted us to actually develop the design, and that was a big surprise for me to understand that we had that much freedom.
Did you
Um,
feel a large amount of pressure, though? I mean, obviously, the Spartan is iconic with Halo and Xbox and Microsoft in general, and there's a lot of fan base behind
I
this.
mean,
Did you feel the heavy weight of did that affect you at all? Were you at all pressured about I know that they're giving you creative freedom, which is, like, exciting and kind of nerve-wracking, but did that make you feel any more nervous, I guess, that they weren't like, "Here's how to do this?"
that's a good question. The I feel pressure from everywhere, so
Okay, that's right.
I feel the pressure, even if I don't have any. So
Okay.
by saying that, I mean it could have been a lot more. For some reason, I started looking at. I'm here representing the one of the biggest video game ever. So my creativeness, I wanted that to be for the game, not to show that I could do better, and I did not want to either. So for me, having books and information for 343 was the base of it. I wanted actually to nail it the way they wanted that to be. So for me, it was literally I wanted to do the best to get as close as possible to what they want that
Mhm.
because they own it. Meaning they own the design, they own the video game, and they have to, they have to make sure the thing comes out is the closest to what the expectations are. They as the producers, but as well as viewers.
I can
So
say as a fan, I'm really pleased with all the designs in the show so far. Like everything looks and feels true to how I, as a Halo fan,
yeah,
perceive it. You know, and I was going
and
to ask about you working with 343, but you went right in there. Like, yep, okay, cool.
Great.
I'm glad to hear it.
and I have to say that I understood what successful people are because 343 is successful, and
Mhm.
it's Microsoft, and you do actually learn how people who own so much power, how free they can let you feel by doing something for them. It's something I've never seen it before. Usually the controlling of it, it's what shows you how much pressure you have from that. They literally say, guys, this is not our business because we not do movie industry. This is your thing. And, you understand you need to do it right, though.
Right.
Freedom then, and it comes across as, I better do the right thing here. But that said, I decided to just to make a prototype of this armor because it was all about that, first of all. And we're talking about back to the late 2018. We didn't have any cast member. So I said, we're going to hire a guy, possibly a big muscle person, which is never going to be featured. And we're going to build whatever I think is going to be the proportion, because obviously a Spartan guy is like with the very long legs and is very tall. You're never going to find a person who's going to fit in the reality of the height. As I think you might correct me, how tall they should be, 7 feet something.
Yeah, the Spartans are average at least 7 feet or more, depending. Like if you watch any of the clips from like Halo video games, his chief is usually towering over the regular Marines. A good 2 heads taller than them.
So you understand that was going to be the first challenge, more than the costume designing for production, finding an actor who was going to be that, like a good actor that was going to be that tall. And then if you don't go that high, then everybody else is going to be like dwarf size, if you make it, So they had the date. So I raise a problem that they start facing, say the creative, who we're going to cast to put into that big size, make the Spartans a little lower, to make the Marines a little lower, to make the regular people even lower than that. So that was the challenge they had to face based on the information I gave them. Long story short, we decided to make a prototype without any cast member, just to establish the proportion. And when that big day happened before Christmas 2018, I showed that thing over, the screen. We were in London doing that over Zoom. I had looked the whole, the biggest personality across, the world, the other side, they're looking at it. And one of the final, at the end of the conversation, they said, and they never seen. I expected like a load of notes. I was really ready to just change this and that. And I heard, surprisingly, almost unbelievably, that that was the best prototype they've seen over the years by making it. That was the closest things that could have been represented for the show. So they were particularly happy. There were some back. I showed them, look, here, there's some tapes. We're not close to it. But that was the first prototype. So we found we nailed it quickly into proportion. Now there was like a lot of movement restrictions that we need to go through later on. Like they couldn't even touch their nose if they had an itch or something. So
to develop that first prototype, I'm wondering how much time you actually spent researching and where you pulled from to design that first prototype.
They gave me a couple of. They didn't want me to look into everything. There were like some design they wanted to. Well, okay. First of all, I got a 3D design of the armor. So they did send me, which then it needs to be developed in that. It was a 3D file, but then you need to develop into a person wearing it. So that was the first thing. And so they gave me the design, and they would have gone then into the video game as well, right? And then we did not receive any design for the under armor because that was meant to be a technical suit where you attach the part of the armor on top of it. So that was a big thing on designing that part, which I have to say proudly, I got so engaged into the material and the possibility of make that suit. Then it was not meant to be seen that many times. But Pablo got very, very excited about it. And he just, as always happens, the cast member who makes things happening. And he said, I want to use that as much as possible. So they had to recreate when they're going to use the Spartan, the Spartan, when they're going to use the under armor. So there was any time they were inside, obviously never in a space because they need to have the armor on, but it was a ready to go thing. So they would be wearing that when they were in interior, and anytime they needed to have the armor, geared up, they would have just be ready to go on that. And so the under armor was recreating the shape of of man and a woman with a lot of power. So just adding up muscle what was needed to make them the biggest and the most powerful person. Really going on man and woman anatomy. That was the thing. But I got really excited into this because it was not meant to be a thing, and all of a sudden became. And so I figured, okay, then I can do this show if I can do this.
So
Yeah.
that came because of Pablo's like insistence of having that.
What did you say?
So the Under Armour came more from Pablo's kind of insisting that he wants to spend more time in the Under Armour.
After made that, he said, I really feel comfortable into this. And so I would like to use it as much as possible. So he talked to the creative person, and they made room for that for himself
Nice.
and all the other Spartans, because it was somehow successfully working on the visual, but also as an effect of seeing these people before the armor to be. So it was another that was, introducing to the next step. So you can see them what they were under. And it came across as a successful thing. It was not meant to be, but that's the creative space they leave you. They don't expect to this and that, as long as we end up having that armor with those proportion things. And the Under Armour helps the armor to build even bigger, to be massive. And this is something that I didn't expect. After having worked for many months on this armor, the day they all came on set, the whole crew, like grapes electricians, we all do work, and we don't pay attention to many things, but everybody kind of stopped at the visual of these 4 people came in. So when the Silver team appeared, big thing on set on his own. So we had a feeling that it was going to be a pretty a big thing then for the viewers as well, because everybody stopped kind of paying attention to this massive men and ladies, beautiful. They were gorgeous. Another thing, how to make a woman look like different men in that boxy armor. We needed. So in the Under Armour, it's more defined, and actually they're beautiful. And with the armor, we needed to make some tricks to make the hips and the waist was a little smaller and everything. And then there's the acting, but we did not know how to make that clear straight away.
That's interesting as a fan, because if in the later Halo games, when you can play the multiplayer, you can choose your Spartan and you can determine whether your Spartan is a male or female. And when you change the toggle switch, it's usually like male, female, male, female.
Just the smaller waist.
It's a waistline. That's pretty much the only real difference.
But you'll understand. Sorry, Gwen.
No, you go ahead.
You understand that if you see the first scene and they're fighting and then go crazier and run around, you don't really understand that. At the point that I knew the Halo game, but I didn't know that much. Today I learned a lot about it. And I learned a lot more. We'll go back to this point. I learned a lot more after I designed most of it, because then I was ready to not get attached too much. Since they gave me that creative freedom, I couldn't get attached too much to the game. So I decided when it was time for me to play, which helped a lot. But later on, that was my own choice. But that said, I said, if we want to know who is this person, the other Spartan, why don't we make a coloring? So each of them, they have a different color armor. Subtle, but different. Which thought about it. And then they came back 3 for 3 saying that was possibly, you might help me with that. I might say something slightly not canon here. I apologize.
Okay.
They wanted the Silver team to be a Silver team, because those colors, they might belong to other team. Like the Silver team and then another team and another Spartan team. So they're different teams, and they wanted to make sure they were not ready to make a decision of disclosing these all at once.
Yeah, especially if they're trying to keep things canon, I could see how they want to try to keep things, because a lot of the team members of different Spartans, they have their own unique color, but they stay like kind of within a realm of a hue around that color of their team.
So you understand. So it came back with something that makes sense. Everybody you questioned them, they came up with a make sense answers, which was related to to their video game history. They say we can do that, or let's not do that yet. You might do that later on. Room for developing seasons thing. And so
that's cool.
You said, what if we know straight away who's A, B, C person, right? Let's make a bit of colors. And then so let's keep that. We'll find out later on how do we know who's who. Obviously, Master Chief is in his canon color, is in green, whether the other ones are like a gunmetal kind of gray. And sorry I cut you short. You had a question.
No, you're okay. I was gonna say, like,
Fine.
you had mentioned that the cast and the crew and everything when the 4 Spartans came out sort of all had a massive reaction. I wanted to know, how has the fan feedback been for you, and how has that impacted you when you've seen everybody freak out basically over these
Yeah.
costumes?
And well, I have to say I was prepared from 343. They considered that 3.5 years ago, and they told us there are going to be a lot of people who love the game. They're not going to like the
Okay.
message, the helmet off. This is not going to be liked.
Mhm.
There are a couple of things they're not going to be liked, but we have to force that. They, as I say, I was impressed the way massive, successful millionaires or billionaires or whatever you want to say, and in perspective, they can actually face very difficult things by saying we need to go through that somehow because the TV show, for some reason, has to disclose and reveal things. So they understood there was something they were not quite sure about because they don't do this business, but there has to be somehow in some reason, I need to break through. So what I read on Pablo's mainly Instagram, that there's a lot of hostility. People they're not really happy about it, and I understand because you've been playing a video game, which is that thing. So I understand that the possible part. Then it'll take possibly a while or never for someone to be okay with Master Chief with that helmet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I think
understandable.
I think overwhelmingly the fans of the series have been very positive about the costume design on a whole. But when the helmet did come off, there was a bit of an uproar. I do have a question though about the helmets then, because obviously you did have to make it removable and stuff. So was there challenges there with, because I know that you're dealing with actors and they are probably in those helmets for a long time.
Yeah.
How was that experience making a helmet that's removable, but something that they'd be able to act in comfortably?
I think it was the main issue, but there were others. And
Okay.
going back to the helmet shortly, the
Mhm.
Spartan actors they had to train not to make a lot of muscle, but they had to train to be into not just the armor is the under armor. Then they had a lot of it's a suit, right? So it's based and made on your shape of your skin of your body. So this material is pulling. Every time you raise your arm, you're literally doing a gym thing. You're raising
Yeah.
kilos.
In
Everything
the
you
resistance.
arm
Mhm.
constantly move your legs, raise your leg, and they had to run fast into these things. So they've been trained to make that kind of strength, muscle strength, not to be
Okay.
kind of big because you never get it big enough as a Spartan person. So we add up muscle to make to proportion the shape of the height and everything. But they were trained to be able to last 10 hours, 9 hours, 11 hours for one day, for 2 days, like 50 hours for the week and a month. So they've been trained purposely to be able to act with the strength into that thing. On top of that, then there's the helmet situation, which is in restrictions on viewing where you're running, and then it's always a bit fog in there. As much as technology helps, there are a lot of restrictions, and they had to really to work this out into that and make it look like Spartans, like comfortably moving into. They were not really. Uh, um, they were not really allowed to not be comfortable and odd looking into that. So they've
Mhm.
gone through a lot. And after Pablo first, and I say it could have been, all different, he embraced it straight away and said, "You let me know what my restrictions are, I'll work around that." He said, "The only thing I don't want, if I raise my arm and a piece falling away from me, that would make me nervous."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That as long as everything stays on my body, then I'll work around that. And when all the other cast came in, he just made sure things were clear. So is the person who made this working. He really married
Mhm.
the cause. It was not just acting; it was really part of the project. He really wanted to make this work, and it was a huge surprise. It made a really big share into make this work.
That's wonderful. That's really wonderful to see because I mean, obviously, I've had experience with acting myself, and some actors
Humble
that are
brag.
just definitely not like that. And I'm sure you've had those actors as well, Giovanni, where they're just
Yeah.
not as willing to, to I guess, concede to like a restriction of an outfit.
I'm happy
But
to
with
hear that
something as so
Pablo was
big
so
with,
big and
yeah,
supportive of everything. Just like, yeah, let's do it. Like he was jumping into it kind of headstrong and ready to rock and roll.
yeah,
Yes.
Which I
Yeah.
had another thought on the helmet takeoff and the face
okay,
reveal for the show, if I can go down
Please.
that road again real quick. Um, I actually wrote a piece about the Halo show and how happy I was with it, and I mentioned the helmet removal, and I said in my article that for television, you kind of have to have that. Like you said, like 343 kind of said, it's TV, it's your business. We have to kind of rip that band-aid off and show Master Chief's face, because how are you going to do a TV show for who knows how many seasons where we never see his face? And you need to have that connection with the character. And I, as a fan, feel this is a perfect setup for a canon reason why Master Chief doesn't take his helmet off in the games. If they go down that road, we don't know
oh,
yet.
Mm-hmm.
They could work that into the show, because the show, if it's purely canon, is kind of set before the games,
Mm-hmm.
and they could very well work in a reason why Master Chief comes to a decision of, I'm no longer taking my helmet off because it's just bad, or I just should just keep it on at all times. So
Um, it is a big creative, not in our level, creative, show creative. The decision of doing or not doing it, this must be something they talk about. Amblin, at Microsoft, and I'm sure they had a big discussion before even involving any of us in that. But they, as you said, you really graphically said we need to rip, band it off. It's painful every time you do it, and they decided to do it that way. There on this hand, I might say they want Master Chief to start defrosting
mm,
from senseless way to live, start feeling taste, temperature. I'm not saying love; it's still early, but they wanted to
mhm,
show that, and I think the better way to show it is having someone whose face it doesn't show anything, but then slowly adding a bit of emotion to it. Emotion is a big word. It's
mm,
not world is not really word, and world is not really what's happening here there, but slowly Master Chief need to just go back and say, okay, what's going on here? So I believe that was the whole game, more than just show someone's face.
yeah,
Could have revealed that in season 2. I think they
yeah,
wanted to show as the humanity we had inside is now here cracking there, and something it's about to happen, I believe.
yeah. Oh,
yeah,
and I can tell you, as a fan of the show and of the games, I picked up on that from the first episode. What it looks like they're trying to go for in the storytelling is, this is Master Chief 117 Spartan, where he's been fairly freshly programmed as a Spartan,
Hmm.
and he's not quite at that point of how we know him as Master Chief in the games yet. And like they start to hint at that, where he's like, I feel something, I remember something. And it's like, as soon as I saw those scenes, I was like, oh my God, this is like from the books.
Hmm.
And I was very pleased that they were going down that road in the storytelling of the show.
Yeah, as I
I look
said, it's
forward
a
to that.
quite very brave creative choice has been made up there at some point, and obviously they knew that would have disappointed a lot of gamers. Then they were not happy to see that. That's when you make a choice, you need to leave need
sure.
someone to deal with and to see if it's going to be any better.
It's polarizing for sure,
Mhm.
but I think fans of the show will, or fans of the game will probably continue to watch the series, and it's most likely going to get even better, and then hopefully maybe greenlit for more. What I wanted
Yeah.
to ask before we close out, Giovanni, is there anything from this project that you've learned that you'll be taking with you into future projects that really stands out to you? Because I'm sure you've learned a lot now, like coming on to your first sci-fi production in terms of like being a sci-fi costume designer based on a game. What is there anything in particular that you're taking with you to your next project?
Um, Definitely the possibility of interface, just to have the communication with someone who I think I learned more than before, since I gave a lot of credit. If I work for any show, I need to give credit to my creative person, and he wrote it and he owns that. But here I was dealing with someone who owned a lot of it's like books and the years of games, and so these people they have some within 343. There's someone who knows the geography. There's a person, as like if it was a history person, and he knows exactly what happened in the Halo era, and like at this time. And if you go into the little place, you're gonna find on the right side. This guy has a geography of the whole world of Halo, as if that exists, in the reality. So
Mhm.
I was
Yeah.
understanding that there is a reality. Then I ignored it for many years, and it's actually, even if it doesn't resist, then reality exists in someone's heads. So paying respect to the knowledge of those details, then they built over years, building their their success and the reality. Then they know in details what screws are, to unscrew a world, make it another one. So then for me, it was easier to give credit to it. So I learned how to give credit to something that doesn't exist, basically, more than before.
Amazing.
Yeah. So
That's a good answer.
and trust what they tell me, instead of saying, okay, someone write a script here. I think whoever's going to be the creative I'm going to deal with. I know there's a world that it's a visual graphic world, then I don't see. I only need to trust them. That came by dealing with 343.
Amazing.
I think you did an excellent job, because for any of those Halo fans out there who try to give you any negativity, I think it looks phenomenal as a Halo fan, and it's just poopy that there's so many people out there that are going to hate on it for whatever reason that they decide to hate on it.
Hey.
But I'm telling you, as a Halo fan, longtime Halo fan, I think it looks great.
And it's gorgeous. You'll see more.
Great.
There's a lot of
I look forward to it.
so much going on.
I hope to see some grunts in the near future.
Say it again?
I hope to see some grunts in the near future.
Yes.
One of the covenants.
Oh.
Yeah, a lot of worlds they're going to come in and introduce themselves.
Mm.
Which is exciting for you. It's good challenges, new challenges to come, huh? Hopefully.
Yeah. Well, the ones I know, they happened already. So you'll have
I see. I see. So the rest of us will find out shortly as it goes.
Very shortly, yes.
Wonderful.
Sweet.
Dan, do you have anything else to add before we close out the show?
No, I don't think so. I thank you very much for your time, Giovanni. It's been amazing hearing from you, and I'm just really happy with the show so far. So keep up the great work for as long as you need to, as long as the show is able to run. I look forward to it.
I wanted to, if I might, thank Alessio Filippelli, who put us all together. He's working really, really hard, very smart way, and really to put me in touch with whoever really loves that, and give, for me, a chance to, go back and see what happened for you guys eventually to know more about it. And I'm really grateful to it. And thank you to you guys to give room to for us to say what happened, back there behind the curtains.
Oh, we love to speak behind the curtain. You're welcome back anytime, Giovanni. Any other project you got going, Alessio, you hit us up. Thank you so much.
Please.
We can talk about more about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Giovanni. I've been a fan of your work for a long time, friend.
I've been a fan without knowing.
Yeah, without knowing, like, this was such a random, like, small world
like when I looked
that we got put together
behind this curtain, as you said, like, I was like, oh, he's worked on Penny Dreadful. He's worked on, Into the Badlands. I love all these things.
I know. I was in all those things. But yeah, thank you again so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Alessio, again, thank you so much for setting all this up, and Drew as well.
Till next. Ciao.
Till next time. Ciao.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Yeah,
what an amazing conversation.
Yeah, what an amazing conversation. What a nice guy. I'm so glad that they've taken the time to actually come on the show and speak with us. Our little show.
Our little show.
We'll
post.
Yeah. Oh, little show. So thank you so much again, Giovanni, for your time, and Alessio and Drew for setting all that up to introduce us all together. That was cool. It was a really insightful conversation, I think.
Oh yeah. I want to say that as a fan of Halo and video games, and not really I've never put a lot of thought or time and mental energy into the idea of the people behind the scenes, as far as costume designs and things like that. It was actually incredibly rewarding talking to him, and I enjoyed it a lot, hearing his back end, his time of going through the process of creating the suits and the research. And it's very much appreciate his time and coming to talk to us. I can't say enough about it.
Yeah, I agree. It was like really wonderful to have that insight, and I guess get to ask all of our amazing questions, which he just answered
He killed
while
it.
speaking. It was killed it. We did a whole line of questions, and he touched on everything like one after the other. I'm like, oh, we've done. Oh, don't need to ask this question. Don't need to ask this
Check,
question.
check.
Check,
I
check,
could
check,
have
check.
talked. I could have nerded out about Halo a lot more, but I felt like I don't need to waste this man's time nerding about Halo when he's got better things to be doing.
Who knows, Dan? Maybe there'll be a season 2, and Giovanni might come back on.
That would be great. Please,
Maybe.
Giovanni, come back
Dude.
and share
Yeah.
some more with us, especially when
If that happens.
if they start rolling out like grunts or other of the like brutes from Halo. Like that was something I could have asked him a little bit more about. I was curious about if he had designed the outfits even for the CG characters, because a lot
Oh,
of the
that's a good
aliens,
question.
a lot of the aliens were CG in the show, but then there's parts where, like, if an alien blew up, they would have a physical body on the floor for like backdrop shots.
I
So
didn't
that
know
was
that.
still made. That was still physical.
Hmm.
Giovanni, come back.
Yeah.
Answer
Hold
my
on.
questions.
Let's get him on the phone.
Get him back
No,
on.
it's a little bit unfortunate because I didn't see the first episode of Halo. I think it was only limited for 1 week on YouTube, and I had no idea there's a limited run on that. And then, of course, other than that, it's available in the US. Paramount Plus, only in the US, Canada, and Australia. And obviously, I don't live in any other
Why are these
countries, so I
streaming
haven't been
services
able to
boning
watch
everyone
this.
outside of America?
I don't know. HBO Max and Paramount Plus needs to get their act together, because I'm like, come on, I want to watch this. I want to see it. So other than clips on YouTube and of course the trailers and the Instagrams and like all of the kind of fresh shots that they've done of the costumes, I don't have much context for how they're used, for what they're doing on set, or what like could be interesting. Even sugar, I forget McKee's character, Charlie's character, McKee, like you only see a very split second of her in the trailer with her really cool, I don't even know what you would call that. Is it an outfit, armor, something? It's the costume, and it looked so cool. And I'm so glad that we got to touch on that as well with Giovanni today. Yeah, overall, really insightful.
Yeah,
I thought it was very cool.
Loved it.
Yeah.
So wrapping us up, that's you guys can follow the Replayer Podcast on couchsoup.com. You can find us on YouTube. You can contact us at the replayerpodcast@gmail.com. You can let us know how we're doing, comments, concerns, let us have it, anything and everything. Be sure to check us out on couchsoup.com. You can listen to our show while you read some amazing articles by other contributors. And there's much to look forward to coming to Couch Soup in the future. And we are very humble to be a part of it. Thank you.
Everything Dan said, copy and paste, +1. Love this. Yeah. Thanks very much, guys. We will see you guys next time.
Game over.